Now at 6 o'clock tonight, there is new life at Shreveport's old General Motors assembly plant. Good evening, I'm Jonathan McCall.
And I'm Johnette Magner. After the plant shut down, Caddo Parish purchased the property. Since then, they've worked diligently to replace those jobs lost with the departure of such a major employer. Brenda Teal is live at the old GM plant with a look at why the opening and eventual closing holds such a significant place in Arklatex history in this 70 Stories for 70 Years report. Brenda.
Yeah, Johnette and Jonathan, all that remains now is a hollow steel frame, a rusted steel frame of what was once a landmark in our community. You know, jobs here were just thriving, and the economy took on a major blow when GM closed. Now, as I look back on the history of this plant, it appears that jobs from day one might have been a miracle.
I regret to say that we're in the worst economic mess since the Great Depression.
A sobering message to the nation from President Ronald Reagan in February of 1981. Just months before, General Motors planned to open its 3 million square foot assembly plant in Shreveport.
We were once the greatest producer of automobiles, producing more than all the rest of the world combined. That is no longer true.
Inflation and foreign competition hurt car sales, making the future uncertain for hopeful GM employees.
David Kitterlin, I am the president of UAW Local 2166 here in Shreveport at the General Motors plant.
David Kitterlin described what it meant to work for GM.
Good job with a better than average pay, great benefits.
In a weakened economy, the plant opened 6 months later and quickly made its mark with the Chevrolet S10.
But back then, it was the most modern, small vehicle you could find.
It was GM's first domestically produced compact pickup, breaking away from its Japanese manufacturer, Isuzu. And for about 30 years, the good times rolled. Doug Eby was the plant's last UAW president.
We started building the 325 model, and then we ended up working and building the Chevrolet Colorado and the Hummer H3.
GM contracting companies got in on the boom.
Cooper Transport had its own place,
Adding to a healthy economy.
You had a facility in Shreveport that made batteries, all sorts of components that go into that finished vehicle.
President Bill Clinton visited in 1994 during his first term in office. With record-breaking truck sales, times were good.
You know, if you're betting on a company, you're going to bet on a company like General Motors that's tried and true, that's been around 100 years.
Scott Martinez is a former president of the North Louisiana Economic Partnership.
That's the last company of its type that you would think would file bankruptcy and start closing facilities.
Especially when a company spends $800 million to add a stamping plant to mold their own metal car body parts.
when they put a stamping plant in a plant, you have the security. It's job security, it's going to be there.
$1.2 billion invested in the plant. Every employee thought we were good for another 20 years.
They weren't.
Good morning.
Despite signs of growth,
For years, America's automakers have faced serious challenges.
a market downturn.
Burdensome costs, a shrinking share of the market, and declining profits.
800 Shreveport-based employees were sent home.
Employees got the news about the layoffs this morning, and while the news wasn't good, GM officials say they are optimistic about this plant's future.
Our long-term viability, we feel, is excellent. We're not concerned that this is the beginning of something that's bad for the plant.
But it was. U.S. Senator David Vitter from Louisiana vowed to fight a $17.4 billion emergency federal loan package, calling it several steps in the wrong direction. But without it, Chrysler and General Motors were finished.
We're hoping that the plant comes back up and moves up from one shift back up to two.
In recent months, my Auto Task Force has been reviewing requests by General Motors and Chrysler for additional government assistance.
Unlike in the 1980s, recovery this time was more painful.
It was shocking when they left.
No one could believe that they were actually going to close the most modern plant in General Motors.
In my opinion, it should still be open.
The last truck rolled off the Shreveport assembly line on August 29th, 2012.
Here's a generation you hear every day Well, my son and my daughter had to move out of state to get this good job. Well, here it is. If they'd been here, they might have stayed.
A region still recovering from the closing that happened 13 years ago. There were good times here in Shreveport, and the Caddo Parish has done quite a bit to get new tenants into this 3 million square foot facility. Digital manufacturer SLB is one of them. Also, Hyundai Globus is here, and Hyundai Globus is responsible for distributing Kia cars. So live in Shreveport, where there was once a giant, right here on this industrial street. Back to you.
Wow, amazing story, Brenda. Thank you.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you, Brenda.